How you doing, guys? It's Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. So recently there was an interview where I'm sure all of you have heard about the shooting incident with Alec Baldwin on his latest movie set, where he ended up shooting someone and killing I believe it was a producer on the set. So he just now came out and did some kind of interview. I haven't watched the actual interview, but I did see an article where it says he claimed that he didn't touch the trigger, or I'm sorry, he said he didn't pull the trigger. And that's a distinction that I'm going to mention here briefly. Like I said, I've just read the article, or just read the headline, haven't yet read the article, but I guarantee you that he is meaning he didn't actively pull the trigger, like I didn't decide to pull the trigger. I guarantee you he touched the trigger. I am extremely dubious that it was some kind of just cook off or something like that. Um, they're shooting a western, so they're almost certainly using single action revolvers. And when those are cocked, the trigger pulls are extremely light. You don't have to actively pull the trigger a lot of times. Just bumping it or brushing it, or having your hand resting on it while you're doing another sort of movement can a lot of times be enough to discharge the gun. But the biggest point I wanted to make in this is that if you're following, it almost doesn't matter, because even if he did not touch the trigger at all, for someone to have gotten hurt, let alone killed in this situation, or for something bad to happen, he had to break other rules as well. He broke at least three cardinal gun safety rules, three of the what I would consider four main ones. So all of them, I would say, is always treat every gun as if it's loaded. You always clear a weapon whenever you're picking it up or being handed to you or whatever. You never point the gun at anything you do not intend to shoot, and you always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. So let's assume that he did that one. He didn't touch the trigger at all, and it was a mechanism, was loose in the gun, and the trigger, the hammer fell without him touching the trigger. For anything bad to have happened after that happens, he still has to have broken multiple other of those gun safety rules. In this case, at least three of them. He didn't check the gun, he didn't treat it as if it was loaded, and he pointed it at something he didn't intend to shoot. So he broke 75% of the cardinal gun safety rules. It doesn't matter in this case, culpability-wise at least, if he touched the trigger. He still shouldn't have, of course, and I certainly believe that he did. But it goes to show you that if you're following all these rules religiously, even if somehow something happens where one of them is broken, it's almost impossible for anything bad to happen if only one of those rules were broken. Because like I said, let's say he did touch the trigger, that I assume that he's wrong and or lying, and did touch the trigger. If he'd followed all the other ones, if he checked the gun when it was handed to him, he would have known whether it was loaded or not. If he didn't point the target at anything he didn't intend to shoot, that would bypass any even breaking the first rule or anything that happened somehow magically, something in the barrel like what happened with Brandon Lee, where they were using legitimate blanks, but there was an obstruction in the barrel that was launched out. So even if that happened and you weren't pointing it directly at someone, it was at the ground or at some safe direction, nothing bad would happen. And if, so you have to break multiple rules. If he'd followed all the other three, then there wouldn't have been an injury. And let's say he did pull the trigger, but again, we're assuming that already. So he pulled the trigger, but all the other three were being followed. The gun would have either been empty because he checked it, or if somehow that got through, it would have been pointed at something that was a safe direction, something resembling a safe direction or an actual target. And then vice versa. If he had proper trigger control, but didn't check the gun, then it wouldn't have gone off. You have to break at least one of these rules. Actually, you usually almost always have to break two or more for something bad to happen. Because let's assume that you are retarded enough that you touched the trigger and you were pointing it at someone. If you'd cleared the weapon, then you would have known that there wasn't a bullet in it to go off, even though you're being stupid and irresponsible by putting your finger on the trigger and pointing at someone. So you usually have to break like three of the four rules. In this case, he did break three of the four. Sometimes, depending on the rule, breaking only two can cause a disaster or injury or death. But you almost always have to break two, at least. Breaking one, if you're following all the other ones, usually that covers the ground. Not always, like I said, so you always want to make sure you're following all four 100% of the time, but because the consequences are so obviously severe for breaking them. But it's a momentary lapse, one little mistake is usually not enough. You usually have to be breaking multiple rules. And not only that, multiple people had to break multiple of these rules for this event having taken place. So I have no sympathy, obviously, especially for someone who has been lambasting people for various things, especially in being so strict about, how guns are bad and everything. Like this is why these people are like this, because they don't trust themselves with guns. They know what happens when they handle guns. They think that it's like this anytime anyone has guns because they're idiots. They know they can't control their tempers. So they think, what would I do if I'm at a traffic incident and I'm concealed carrying? Oh man, I might shoot someone. So then they assume that's like a real risk for well-adjusted normal people in red states that every four-way stop's going to turn into a shootout is the old myth. So let me know what you guys think about this incident, and if you really believe him that he didn't put his finger on the trigger, which I don't. And despite all this, you find yourself having to work on an Alec Baldwin movie set anytime soon, I suggest you go ahead and pick up a Safe Life Defense vest, which you can get for 10% off with the code RTW. What I've got right here is the tactical carrier with the level 3A plus body armor and the level 4 plates. The 3A plus is great because it stops all your common handgun rounds, 357 up to 44 mag, 45 9mm, stops shotgun rounds, slashes, strikes, tasers, and it has a bonus that it'll stop some really high velocity 9mm Liberty Civil Defense rounds and the FN57, which both of those are known to punch through normal 3A body armor sometimes, and stab protection, which a lot of, Kevlar vests like the 3A are stab resistant. It's hard to stab through them, but they're not stab rated. And this one is up to 36 joules of force, maybe 37, I don't remember, but it's up there. And then when you add in the level 4 ceramic plates, which will stop up to 30-06 steel core multiple strikes, Alec Baldwin will not be able to kill you as easily, for sure. So thanks for watching, guys. SafeLifeDefense.com, code RTW, and talk to you soon.